But the mason jar model is something like this. When a grief perhaps is newer or fresh, right? It's as if our capacity or our experience going through the world is like a mason jar, and the grief experience or the grief story perhaps is like all of these rocks that just fill up our entire experience of what's going on, right? One conception of grief is that, okay, we got to figure out how to take some of these rocks out of the jar. And that's what's going to happen over time, is these rocks are going to go away. The grief experience is going to get less over time, or less intense over time. And for some folks, what they like thinking is actually it's not that over time the rocks get less or go away, but we might find that over time the jar, or our experience walking through the world, the jar increases in size, the rocks stay the same, and we have more experience and more time where we might not be interacting with that grief as intensely or as in quite the same way. That being said, when we do interact with it, it might be just as intense as it ever was, right? Or those feelings might be very similar to how they were. And then over time, again, we still, years later, right? Shaq's having a moment of a grief reminder years later, and it might be just as intense as when the loss of his grandfather first occurred, right? But it just might be less common that he encounters it, something like that. So some people like the mason jar model of grief, rather than thinking, okay, it's been this long, or we've been through this many stages.